Hello, welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today's podcast is A Man Who Failed IELTS 3 Times and Finally Passed.
It's quite a title, isn't it? It really grabs you. It sounds less like a study guide and more like a hero's journey.
I think that's exactly what it is, because the villain in the story isn't a dragon, it's a language test.
Which can definitely feel like a dragon.
Oh, absolutely. And I want to start our deep dive today by talking about a very specific kind of emotion, a feeling.
Why?
It's not the loud, screaming frustration you get when you stub your toe.
Okay.
It's much quieter. It's the silence that comes after a failure.
That's a heavy place to start. But I think I know exactly what you mean.
It's so heavy. And the man whose story we're unpacking today, Armin, he described it perfectly. He said this failure, it wasn't a loud noise. It was a silence that just sits next to you. And it whispers things.
What kind of things?
Things like, maybe you're not good enough, or maybe this isn't for you. And the real kicker here is that he lived with that whisper, that silence, for 2 years.
2 years? Wow. That is an eternity to be stuck in that kind of self-doubt, especially when the stakes are so high.
Right. And they were incredibly high for him.
This wasn't just a hobby for him. He wasn't trying to, learn English to watch movies without subtitles.
Not at all. This was his future. He had this dream of studying abroad, getting his master's degree. It was about creating a better life for his family. And this one test, the IELTS, was the gatekeeper standing between him and, everything.
So when he failed, it wasn't just a logistical problem.
No, it was an attack on his identity. It became this deep personal battle with his own self-worth. But, and this is really important for everyone listening, this isn't a sob story.
No. We're not just here to feel bad for him.
Not at all. This is a tactical breakdown. It's a case study, really. It's about that shift from hard work, which we all love to praise.
We romanticize it.
We do. But it's about shifting from that to smart strategy, which is, what actually gets you across the finish line.
So that's our mission for this deep dive.
Exactly. We are going to dissect how someone goes from repeated crushing failure to a really comfortable victory. I mean, we're talking a band 7.5.
Which is a huge jump. And the key, as we'll see, wasn't that his English level suddenly skyrocketed.
No, it was that he completely changed his method. He stopped playing the game harder and started playing it smarter.
He started playing it differently. That's the core idea we're going to explore.
Okay, so let's get into the timeline. Part 1. I want to talk about what I'm calling the trap of overconfidence. Because Armin, he wasn't a beginner, was he?
No, and that's actually the most dangerous part of this first stage. If you're a complete beginner, you're humble. You don't know anything.
You know your limits.
Precisely. But Armin had been learning English since he was a kid. He was, that guy in the friend group who can watch Hollywood movies and get all the jokes. He'd listen to English music, understand the lyrics. He could chat comfortably.
See, if that was me, I'd be thinking, I've got this, no problem.
And that's exactly what he thought. His mindset was, IELTS. Easy. I speak English. But this gets us to a really critical mistake that so many people make.
Which is?
The dangerous gap between conversational fluency and academic testing rigor.
Let's dig into that a little, because I think that's a trap so many of us fall into. You think because you can, order a coffee or tell a story, you can write an academic paper, they feel like the same skill, but they're not.
Or even in the same ballpark. Think of it like driving. Conversational fluency is being able to drive to the grocery store. You can steer, you can brake, you can follow the basic rules. You get there.
Okay, that makes sense.
But IELTS isn't a trip to the grocery store. IELTS is a Formula One race.
That's a great analogy.
In a race, you can't just drive.
Yeah.
You need to know the exact braking point for every single corner, the tire degradation, the fuel strategy. The rules are precise and unforgiving. In conversational English, if you say, I go to store yesterday, your friend understands. Communication's successful.
Right, no big deal.
In IELTS, that's a grammar error. You lose points. Accuracy, not just communication, is the goal.
So Armin was caught in this fluency trap. His confidence was basically just carelessness in disguise.
It was. He booked the test quickly. He didn't have a plan. He didn't look at any practice tests. He relied on this feeling that he knew English.
The classic Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Knowing just enough to be dangerously overconfident.
That's in a nutshell. So he goes into that first test.
And how did it feel on the day?
Deceptive. That's the word he used. He walked out of there feeling fantastic.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He thought the listening part was easy. For the writing, he wrote pages and pages, felt really productive. And in the speaking test, he was chatty and confident. He went home genuinely expecting a 7.5, maybe even an 8.0.
Oh, this is going to be painful. The wait for the results must have been one thing, but getting them.
It was a system shock, a total reality check. He got an overall band of 6.0. And for anyone who doesn't know the scale, a 6.0 is considered a competent user. But for a lot of master's programs, it's just not enough.
What was the breakdown of the scores?
That's where it gets even more interesting. He got a 6.0 in listening and a 6.0 in speaking the parts he felt good about. But in reading and writing, he got 5.5.
Wow, that's not a near miss. That's a completely different ballpark from a 7.5.
It a huge wake-up call. It was the moment he realized, in a very painful way, that his English ability and his IELTS performance were two completely different things.
So after the shock, and he admits he cried for a couple of days, which I think is completely understandable.
Of course.
He started to analyze it. Let's break down those first attempt mistakes. What went wrong specifically?
Okay, mistake number one, and it's a big one, no format knowledge. He walked in completely blind.
What does that mean exactly?
It means he didn't know the question types. He didn't know the time limits for each section. He didn't know about the common traps the test setters put in there on purpose.
It's like showing up to a soccer game and trying to pick up the ball with your hands. You might be a great athlete, but you don't know the rules of the specific game.
Perfect analogy. And that leads to mistake number two, listening carelessness. This one is so frustrating because it's about tiny, preventable errors.
Like what?
Spelling. He'd hear the right word, but spell it wrong. Or he'd miss a plural S. The audio says 3 reasons, and he writes reason.
That's gotta hurt when you get the results back. You knew the answer, you just didn't write it down correctly.
It's brutal. Or the instructions say no more than 2 words, and he writes the blue car. That's 3 words. Wrong. Even if blue car is conceptually correct, he didn't follow the rule. He was losing points not because of his listening skill, but because of his attention to detail.
Okay, what about the writing? He said he wrote a lot. In school, that's usually a good thing, right?
In school? Maybe. But in IELTS, it led to mistake number 3, quantity over quality. He had this belief that a longer essay must be a better essay.
So he was just filling the page.
He was rambling. The result was this disorganized, meandering text that was probably full of grammatical errors because he was trying to write too much, too fast. In IELTS, a clear, well-structured 270-word essay will always score higher than a chaotic 400-word one.
They care about structure, not just volume.
Coherence and cohesion is a quarter of your mark. If your argument is all over the place, your score plummets.
And the speaking, he felt confident, so why a 6.0?
Mistake number 4, casual speaking. He treated it like a chat with a friend down at the pub.
What's wrong with that? Isn't that fluent?
It's fluent, but it's not structured. He was using a ton of fillers. Basically,
I do that all the time.
we all do in casual conversation.
Yeah.
But the speaking test is a formal interview. The examiner isn't your friend. They're assessing you. They need to hear organized thoughts and precise vocabulary.
So instead of, tourism is bad for the planet because of, planes and stuff.
Exactly. A band 7 or 8 answer is more like, one of the primary environmental drawbacks of tourism is the significant carbon footprint associated with air travel. A second major issue is it's structured, it's formal, it uses better vocabulary.
I see the difference. One is an opinion, the other is an argument.
And that's the difference between a 6.0 and a 7.5.
So he fails. He processes the failure. And that takes us to a second attempt. I'm calling this phase the illusion of productivity, because now he actually decides to study.
He does, but he immediately falls into a new trap, which we can call the chaos strategy.
The chaos strategy. I feel like I live there sometimes. What does that look like for IELTS prep?
It looks very busy. He went out, he bought a stack of random IELTS books. He subscribed to, half a dozen YouTube channels. He'd watch a video on grammar here, do a practice test from a book there. It was all disconnected.
But it feels like you're doing something, right? You've got your highlighters out, you're taking notes. It feels like progress.
It's the difference between being busy and being effective. It's motion versus action. You get this little dopamine hit of, I studied for 3 hours today. But what did you actually accomplish?
Were you working on your specific weaknesses?
Exactly. He wasn't. He was just consuming content passively. It's like turning on a fire hose of information and hoping some of it sticks.
So what was the result of all this busy work?
This is the really heartbreaking part of the story. The result was almost identical.
No.
Overall, 6.0. Again, His listening went up by half a band to 6.5, probably just from more exposure. Reading went to 6.0, but writing was still stuck at 5.5.
Oh, that's a psychological gut punch.
It's so much worse than the first failure.
Because the first time you can tell yourself, well, I didn't even try, you have an excuse.
Right, your ego is protected. But the second time, he felt like he had tried. And to get the same result, that's when the self-doubt really turns toxic. He started thinking, maybe I'm just not smart enough for this. Maybe studying abroad isn't for me.
That's the spiral. When you stop blaming the method and you start blaming your own identity.
It's a very dangerous place to be.
So let's analyze the second failure. What were the new mistakes he was making? Why didn't all that studying work?
Mistake number 5, and it's a big one, was passive learning. He used this brilliant analogy. He said, watching someone swim doesn't make you a swimmer.
That is so perfect. I've watched hundreds of hours of professional basketball. I promise you, I cannot dunk.
Precisely. You can understand the theory. Armin was watching these videos, nodding along, thinking, okay, I get it. Use a topic sentence. But he wasn't doing the hard part.
Which is actually writing the essay.
Writing the essay, getting it corrected, and rewriting it. He was just a spectator to his own learning.
And that's tied into mistake number 6, right? Which was no timed practice.
Ah, yes. The great enemy.
Yeah.
The clock. At home, he was doing his practice in this calm, leisurely way. He'd spend 30 minutes on a reading passage that should take 20. He'd look up words in a dictionary.
He was practicing in a fantasy world.
A world without pressure? But the real exam is a pressure cooker. It's a speed test. If you can't perform under that time pressure, your skills are useless on test day.
You're not training for the right event.
You're training for a marathon at a walking pace. It just doesn't work.
And the writing, still stuck at 5.5. Why, no improvement there at all.
This is mistake number 7. And for skills like writing or speaking, it is the absolute killer. No feedback.
He was writing essays, but who was reading them?
Nobody. He was just writing them. So he was making the same grammatical mistakes, the same structural errors over and over and over again. He was practicing being wrong.
There's that saying, practice doesn't make perfect.
Practice makes permanent. He was making his mistakes permanent. He was digging the hole deeper with every essay he wrote because there was no expert voice to say, stop. That's not how you structure that sentence.
So this is where the story gets really dark. This is the third attempt, the breaking point. He's going into this test and he's not overconfident anymore.
He's the opposite. He's broken. He told us he was mentally exhausted, but more than that, he was terrified. The fear had completely taken over.
And fear it's like a cognitive poison. It shuts down the parts of your brain you need most.
It triggers that fight or flight response. And in an exam, that's a disaster.
Yeah.
He said in the speaking test, his mind just went blank. He couldn't find simple words he used every day.
Panic.
Total panic. In the writing, he rushed because he was so scared of the clock. His handwriting became illegible. His arguments made no sense. In the listening, he'd miss an answer. And then instead of focusing on the next question, he'd spend 30 seconds panicking about the one he missed.
And then he'd miss the next 2 as well. It's a domino effect.
A total collapse.
And the result of this third attempt?
Rock bottom. Overall, 5.5.
He went backwards. He actually got a lower score than his very first try when he did 0 preparation.
He regressed. And that's what high anxiety does to performance. There's a well-known curve. A little bit of stress helps you focus, but too much stress and your cognitive abilities just fall off a cliff.
The scene he describes after this, just sitting in his room, staring at a blank wall. No tears this time. Just a feeling of complete emptiness. That's the silence we talked about at the start.
That's it. It's the moment of absolute despair, where you feel like you tried everything and you're still not good enough.
Yeah.
But in that silent, empty room, something shifted.
He didn't give up.
He didn't give up.
Yeah.
He asked himself the most important question of this entire story.
Am I studying hard or am I studying smart?
That's the one. He finally realized he had been running as fast as he could, sweating, working himself to exhaustion. But he was on the wrong road entirely.
And running faster on the wrong road just gets you lost more quickly.
Exactly. And that realization is the pivot point for everything that comes next.
So this leads us to what he calls the scientific pivot. He decides to stop blaming the test setters, to stop blaming bad luck, and most importantly, to stop blaming himself.
He changed the entire paradigm. He stopped seeing IELTS as this big, scary monster. He started treating it like a machine, a system, a skill that could be learned and trained scientifically, just like a sport.
I love that. It removes all the emotional baggage. It's not about, am I worthy? It's about, what is the technical problem I need to solve?
Correct. And step one of this new scientific approach was this: study the exam, not just the language.
What's the difference?
It means learning the rules of the game. He went and downloaded the official band descriptors from the IELTS website. He studied exactly what an examiner is looking for to give a band 7 in writing versus a band 6.
So he was reverse engineering the scoring system.
He was. He realized the test has to be standardized, which means it has to be predictable. It has patterns. It has recurring traps. And once you learn to see those patterns, the fear starts to fade because you know what's coming.
Okay, let's get into the specifics. This is the part everyone listening really needs to hear. Let's look at the input skills, listening and writing. How did he transform his listening score to an 8.0?
The first change was his materials. He threw out all the random books and websites. He decided to use one thing and one thing only: official Cambridge practice tests.
Why is that so important?
Because they are made by the same people who make the real exam. They're the most authentic practice you can get. Other books might be too hard or too easy or use strange accents you'll never hear on test day. Cambridge is the gold standard.
So he focused on quality over quantity.
Yes, and he had a strict routine. One test every single day under strict timed conditions. But here's the real secret. It wasn't about taking the test.
It was about the review.
It was about the review. He would spend 2 hours analyzing the mistakes from a 30-minute listening test.
2 hours? That sounds intense. What could you possibly do for 2 hours?
That's deliberate practice. He wasn't just checking his answers. For every single question he got wrong, he would go back to the audio script. He'd ask himself, why did I miss this? Was it a word I didn't know? Did I misspell it? Did I miss a plural S? Or did I fall for a distractor?
Can you give us an example of a distractor?
Oh, they're everywhere in IELTS. A classic one is in a multiple choice question. The audio will mention all 3 options, A, B, and C, but it will say something like, we used to meet on Mondays, but now the schedule has changed to Wednesdays.
Ah, so if you're not listening carefully, you hear Mondays, and you immediately circle A.
And you've fallen into the trap. The correct answer is C. Armin realized he was falling for these tricks constantly, so he trained himself to listen for keywords like but, however, or used to. He learned the patterns of the test.
He started treating it like a code to be cracked.
Yes, and he did specific drills. He would just practice listening for numbers and dates. He'd do map questions over and over until he could follow directions like turn left past the post office without getting lost. It became automatic, muscle memory.
Okay, what about reading? He was trying to read every single word before. How did that change?
The shift was revolutionary for him. He gave himself permission to stop trying to understand everything.
That feels so counterintuitive for a reading test.
It does, but you have to remember the goal. The goal isn't to write a book report on the passage. The goal is to find 13 or 14 specific answers in 20 minutes. He started treating it like a search and rescue mission.
So he used techniques like skimming and scanning.
Exactly. He would read the questions first. He'd identify the keywords in the question. Then he would scan the text, not read it, but let his eyes fly across the page, looking only for those keywords or their synonyms.
It's like using the find function on a computer.
That's a perfect way to put it. You don't read the whole document to find one word. You hit Control F. He was training himself to be a human Control F. Once he located the keyword, he would slow down and read that specific sentence or two very carefully to extract the answer.
That must have saved him so much time.
A huge amount of time. And it lowered his stress because he wasn't trying to become an expert on, the migration patterns of Arctic birds. He was just trying to find the answer to question number 5.
It's a total mindset shift from comprehension to extraction.
And that's what got him from a 5.5 to a 7.5 in reading.
Okay, let's move to the output skills. Writing was his biggest demon. Stuck at 5.5 twice. What was the big transformation there?
Step 4 was the writing transformation, and it started with an investment. He hired a teacher to give him feedback.
Finally, an outside eye.
He realized he had hit a wall and couldn't get past it alone. You just can't see your own mistakes after a certain point. So he started submitting essays, and for the first time, someone was explaining why his sentences were wrong or why his argument wasn't logical.
So the feedback was key. But what else changed?
His entire approach to style. He stopped trying to sound like a philosophy professor.
He stopped trying to be Shakespeare.
Yes. He memorized simple, effective structures and templates for his essays. He learned to prioritize clarity and accurate grammar over trying to use complex, fancy words.
Wait, that sounds backwards. Don't you need complex sentences and high-level vocabulary for a high score?
You need accurate, complex sentences. A perfectly written simple sentence is 1,000 times better than a complex one that's full of errors.
Can you give me an example?
Sure, a student trying to be complex might write, despite of the fact that the pollution has many problems, but the government does nothing. That's a grammatical disaster. Despite of is wrong. The but is redundant. A much better, clearer, higher scoring sentence is, although pollution causes many problems, the government has taken little action.
It's simpler, but it's perfect.
It's perfect. And that's what examiners want. They want to see control over the language. Armin learned that a clear argument in a simple package is the key to a 7.0 in writing. He used templates to give his essays a solid skeleton every single time.
So like this essay will first discuss X, then it will examine Y before finally offering a conclusion.
Exactly. It's not the most creative writing in the world, but it's effective. It guarantees a good score for coherence and cohesion because you're giving the examiner a roadmap.
That is so liberating to hear. You don't have to be a poet, you just have to be an architect.
A very good way to put it. And then for step 5, speaking, he did something most of us dread.
He recorded himself.
He recorded himself speaking every single day. And then, and this is the hard part, he made himself listen back to it.
Ugh, the cringe factor is so high. No one likes the sound of their own voice.
It's painful. But he said it was the single most effective thing he did. He could hear all his ums and likes. He could hear his own grammar mistakes. He could hear where he hesitated. And he also stopped memorizing answers.
That's another big trap, isn't it? Learning a script for tell me about your hometown.
It's a huge trap. Examiners can spot a memorized answer from a mile away. The tone is flat. It sounds robotic. Instead of memorizing answers, he trained his brain to think in English.
What do you mean by that? How do you do that?
He worked on eliminating the translation delay. That's the little pause that happens when you hear a question in English, mentally translated to your native language. Think of the answer, and then translate that answer back into English.
It's where all the ums and ahs come from.
They do. So he started narrating his own life in his head in English. I am now opening the refrigerator. I am looking for the milk. It sounds silly, but it forced his brain to stop defaulting to his native language. It built a direct pathway.
So when the examiner asked him a question, his brain was already in English mode.
Exactly. The response could be immediate and natural, not a slow, translated one.
Okay, so he's fixed his strategy for all 4 skills, but there is one more piece to the puzzle, the missing variable.
Step 6, mindset. Armin came to believe that IELTS is 50% psychology.
50%? That sounds like a lot for what is essentially a knowledge test.
But think back to his 3rd attempt. His English skill didn't suddenly get worse, but his score dropped dramatically. Why? Panic. If your mind isn't right, you can't access the knowledge you have.
You can know 1,000 vocabulary words, but if you're panicking, you can only remember the word good.
That is it, exactly. So he started training his mind just as rigorously as he trained his grammar.
How do you even do that? You can't just tell yourself, don't be nervous.
No, you treat it like a skill. He did full, timed mock tests every weekend to get used to the pressure. He learned breathing exercises to do right before the speaking test to slow his heart rate. He practiced positive visualization. He literally trained himself to be confident.
He was building psychological armor.
He was. So by the time he walked in for the 4th attempt, he wasn't the same person.
Let's go there, the breakthrough. The 4th test day. How did it feel different?
He said the overwhelming feeling was calm. He wasn't scared. He wasn't nervous. He felt like he'd already done this 100 times in his bedroom.
The power of simulation.
It was. The exam room was just another practice session. He said when he was in the listening test, he could hear the distractors coming, and he actually smiled to himself.
Because he recognized the pattern.
He knew the game. Reading felt like a familiar puzzle. And the speaking test, he said, just felt like an interesting conversation. He wasn't fighting the test anymore. He was just executing his training.
And the results. The moment of truth.
2 weeks later, he opens a website. Listening. 8.0.
Wow. From a 6.0 to an 8.0, that's a massive leap.
Huge. It means you're understanding almost everything, including nuance and complex arguments. Reading. 7.5.
Writing.
7.0. Speaking. 7.5.
The overall score.
Overall, 7.5.
He did it. He absolutely smashed the requirement.
He did. And I love his description of his reaction. He didn't scream. He didn't jump for joy. He said he just sat there, looked at the screen, and smiled quietly to himself.
Why do you think that was? Less excitement and more satisfaction?
I think it's because this time it didn't feel like luck. If you win the lottery, you scream. because it's a miracle.
Yeah.
But if you spend a year building a house with your own hands, when you put the last tile on the roof, you don't scream, you just nod. You know the work that went into it. This victory felt earned.
It wasn't an accident, it was engineered.
That's the perfect word for it. It was engineered.
So to wrap this incredible story up, Arman has distilled his journey into 7 golden rules. I think we should run through these as a final takeaway for our listeners.
Absolutely. Rule number 1, English does not equal IELTS. Technique matters more than you think. You have to learn the rules of the game.
Rule 2, don't study randomly. You need a structured, systematic plan. Kill the chaos strategy.
Rule 3, practice under real timing. Always. The clock is part of the test. If you're not practicing with it, you're not really practicing.
Rule 4, get feedback on writing. He calls this non-negotiable. You have to have an expert find the mistakes you can't see.
Rule 5, speak daily. Even if it's to yourself. Fluency is a physical muscular skill. You have to exercise your mouth.
Rule 6, analyze your mistakes. Don't just see that you got something wrong. Understand why you got it wrong. Your mistakes are your best teachers.
And finally, Rule 7, stay calm. Your mindset controls your score. Train your mind to handle the pressure, and your true ability will shine through.
It's such a powerful list, and it's applicable to learning almost anything, really.
It's a universal blueprint for mastering a complex skill.
And his final thought on the whole experience really stuck with me. He said that failing 3 times didn't mean he was stupid. It just meant he was unprepared.
That is such a vital distinction. Failure isn't a reflection of your character or your intelligence. It's just data. It's feedback. It's reality telling you that your current approach isn't working.
And he also mentioned the long road. He said sometimes that long, hard road teaches you far more than the easy path would have.
Think about it. If he'd scraped a pass on that first try, he would have arrived at his university with weak academic skills. He might have really struggled. But this process forced him to deconstruct and rebuild his English from the ground up. He's actually a stronger student now because he failed.
The failure was the foundation for his ultimate success. It's an incredible reframing.
It is. It proves that you're not behind. You're just learning. The process is the point.
I love his final message for anyone out there who might be struggling right now. He says, you are just one strategy away from passing.
It's not about being good enough or smart enough. It's about finding the right key for that specific lock. If your key isn't working, don't try to force it. Step back, analyze the lock, and go find a different key.
So for anyone listening who feels that heavy silence, who is staring at that wall, Arman's story is proof. Stop attacking yourself. Start analyzing your strategy.
Look at the data. Find the patterns. Change the method. The results will follow.
This has been such an inspiring deep dive. Thank you for breaking it down with me.
My pleasure. It's an important story, and I really hope it gives someone out there the perspective they need to keep going.
And to all of you listening, keep going. You've got this. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. It really helps us bring more deep dives like this to you. Until next time.
Goodbye, everyone.